Hello, welcome to Life Under Lockdown. We're back over stateside again to the great state of Minnesota to speak to Sarah Ray from NET Ministries in Scotland. Well, she's not in Scotland just now, she's in America.
Not in Scotland right now.
How's things, Sarah?
Things are good. We are starting to have things lift for us over here. So restrictions are lifting and we can get outside a little bit more. And the weather's been lovely. So that's nice. Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing is I was always remarking how Scotland during lockdown has been the best weather, and you've been in Scotland several times and you know how terrible the weather can be in Scotland, but right now it is remarkably beautiful and sunny, and it's almost, you couldn't write it. You
I
couldn't write
know.
it.
I've been seeing some memes where it's like weather in Scotland and every other season. I'll have pictures and it's just like downpouring. And then there's like weather during the quarantine and it's just this lovely day.
That's what it's been like. Of course, one of the people who are watching will maybe recognise you. Certainly, if some people of school age will recognise you. Over the last few years, you've been doing work in Scotland with NET Ministries in our high schools and other places. Can you maybe tell us, for those who aren't aware of what you do, what's the sort of thing that NET Ministries do?
Yeah, so NET Ministries is a Catholic organization where we do ministry to evangelize young people. So our primary mission is to challenge young people to love Christ and embrace the life of the church. And we do that through retreat ministries. So the last few years we've been in schools. And really our main goal is just to share our witness, to share how we have encountered Christ and what that has done for our lives. So we have teams of young people who go into schools and spend a day with young people and just like particularly story and listen to the students and listen to their experience of faith, because a lot of our missionaries are American, and so experience of faith is going to be very different. A young person who has grown up in Scotland with that particular political climate and cultural climate and religious climate, and even just like the differences between the Catholic schools and in Scotland and America. So really it's just like spending a day talking about faith, giving them an opportunity to dialogue openly and to be heard and to be listened to, share with them and pray with them. So that's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
what
it's a wonderful thing. I've seen firsthand the work you do in a school, and hopefully by the time we get this interview ready to go, we'll dig out that footage and use it for once, because we plan to do so. But it's been very well received by the church here in Scotland. I saw Bishop Keenan's very, very highly recommended your work as the vanguard, I believe he said, of the new evangelisation.
yeah.
So talking of fruits of it, what sort of fruits did you think has come about from dealing with the young people?
Yeah. So, fruit in ministry is one of those funny things that like that there's fruit there because you're doing it for the Lord and he's got a plan. God's got a plan, and sometimes you don't always see it or not. And I think sometimes with retreat ministry there's this wrestle of like, I want to see that impact now, because I want to know that young people's lives have been changed. And I think the beautiful thing about being in Scotland for a few years is that maybe although the first year we were in schools, although we knew that there was fruit happening, we actually started to see it more and more within the last few years. Part of that is just a response from the students being excited that NET is coming in. It was kind of an unknown thing at first, and now it's trickled down from from year groups to year groups. We go in and they're responding because they've heard good things. But I think one of the biggest fruits that I like, maybe is not a direct statistic, but young people, and what I hear again and again from our missionaries who are working in those small groups, is that young people are responding to other people desiring to hear them out. And they always are, I think, surprised that we want to know where they're coming from and what they think. And so even after a day of spending time with them, we have a lot of response from young people who said, I don't maybe not on the exact same page that you are, but I was really greatly impacted by this day because you heard me out, you listened to me, and now I have a lot more questions about my faith. And maybe I'm not where you're at, but I want to talk about it more, and I feel like I have more freedom to do so. And we also have been doing a survey with most of our young people on retreat, and asking them if they're interested in participating in youth group. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of young people come back and say, I think we had over 600 young people respond, yes, of the people we surveyed, we didn't even survey everyone, but of the people we surveyed, over 600 young people said, yeah, I want to be involved in something more than a retreat. And I think that's a really positive response.
I've got a fly flying towards me. I'm just going to hope it doesn't sting it. But, one thing I will say, I'm just keeping an eye on that fly. I don't. It might be a bee. I don't want it stung. One of the things which really, makes me realise why it's so good is how friendly you guys are. I've met various different teams from different, over the course, and it's really striking how open they are. And it's no surprise to me when you're telling me that people want involved, because your enthusiasm and your drive and real love for the faith comes through. It shines through, and you bring that kind of American enthusiasm, which we don't have.
It's always classified as an American. It's always like, you're too happy to be Scottish. And I don't mean that negatively, but that's what everyone tells us. Like, you can't be Scottish. I mean, you're too sunshiny.
I have an update on the fly. It's a moth, so I'm okay.
Okay.
I don't like these.
I wouldn't have been able to do anything if you got stung.
My biggest concern was having to go to A&E, or you would call it ER, if I swell up or something. But anyway, sorry for that diversion. You can tell us very much unplugged, but it's a real shame that you've had to go back home, essentially to America, given the nature of this pandemic. The loss will be felt this year. I don't know what your plans are, but are you hoping that you'll be able to return next year to Scotland if you can?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the goal right now. I think there's a lot of unknowns and circumstances are constantly changing for NET, but for all nonprofits in Scotland and in America and the world. And so we're going to be pushing for that goal, but you're kind of trying to build a foundation on a moving foundation right now. So we're kind of playing around with some different options, potentially with being able to still minister to young people, but safely. Like you want to respect the new laws and policies that are going to be coming in place. But I've just been reflecting on, like, in the history of the world and in the last 2,000 years, like, God's gospel shines through, and NET Ministries' mission and vision is to challenge young people to love Christ and embrace the life of the church. And we have been doing that in a very particular way, in a very particular system that has worked, and it has been great, and young people have responded. But at the end of the day, like, nothing is going to stop Christ from coming to his people. There's no place or circumstance that will keep Christ from his people, and we'll adapt. NET Ministries and the other Catholic organizations, the other Christian organizations are gonna adapt and gonna work with the times in front of us. And it might look a little different within the next few years, but right now you're still gonna go for that goal, and God will bless whatever happens. Even if it's not what we expect, God's gonna bless it. So.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key to our faith. You are in Minnesota. How is the situation in Minnesota at the minute?
Regarding coronavirus, or
yeah. I mean, you can tell me anything about Minnesota.
Where is
Minnesota? Regarding the pandemic.
I wonder if people who are watching this know where Minnesota is. For a fun fact, if you don't, Minnesota is in the middle of the states on the top. It's called the Midwest. It's in a place called the Midwest. Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing that it's worse in Scotland, so I'm thanking my lucky stars because I feel like it's terrible here. So thank you, Jesus, that I can go.
I think we lost a wee bit of transmission there. You froze a wee bit, but you're back on again.
Crazy, like, so that you've been restricted in even your time outside to be able to, like, go on a walk or something. But yeah, I think, like, because actually, so NET Ministries was founded in Minnesota. So NET USA, they usually send out 16 teams across the US. And so they are working to create virtual retreats here and kind of play around with some of those ideas. So it's nice to be close, I think, to the mother house of NET, and to be able to tag along in their meetings and kind of hear some of those conversations, to be able to bring, the fruits of what they're doing and the resources of what they're doing to Scotland. But regarding, I don't know if people care about the weather, but over Easter we had a snowstorm and it was such a bummer.
Snowstorm, wow.
Sitting there, like, Easter, it was like the corona was coming, pandemic, like, everything's shut, everything's closed, it's Easter, and there was a snowstorm, and it was just like, we're all going nuts.
How do you as a Catholic, how did you respond to this pandemic, given there was a lot of uncertain things, are maybe seeming a bit better now, and maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel for us all, but how did you react to that as a person of faith initially?
Um, so this is relevant because it totally plays into my prayer, but I think being a missionary is one of those things. Being a Catholic in general, but being a missionary, people look at you and they think you're a missionary, so that's your job, so you must be good at it, and you need to do it well. Like a dentist. A dentist you'd expect to have nice teeth, or a doctor. You'd expect a doctor to be healthy, right? You don't expect a doctor to be obese and have all these health issues. You expect a doctor to be healthy. So a missionary you expect to kind of have their life together a little bit, to kind of have their prayer in order. And when this pandemic kind of started sweeping across the US, I actually moved in with my sister because she was pregnant and had a couple young kids and she just needed some help. And so I moved in with her, and in my head I was going to be here for a couple weeks just until she had a baby, got her feet back on the ground. And I had this like very particular prayer routine, being a missionary and being like taking care of myself and managing my own schedule, that was like, here's what I did and here's how it happened. And I moved in with my sister, and it was like it all went downhill. It was like I mean, I would be trying to pray, but there would be screaming in the background, and a kid would come in and I would try to lock the door, but they'd figure out how to unlock it. And like it was just a reflection of kind of like the chaos that's going on in the world and my life. And I felt like I was doing a bad job praying, and I was doing a bad job connecting with the Lord. And I like it because it wasn't what I had set up for myself in my life before, which worked. I kind of was like reaching out and trying to feel blindly for the Lord, like, Lord, where are you? And I realized as the date for me moving out kept getting pushed back and back, in my head, I was like, okay, I'll be here 2 weeks now. It's been 2 months and I'm still here, and this is still my life. I mean, I don't know if you could see, but there's like posters of Power Rangers and stuff in the background because I'm in my nephew's room. But I realized like it is okay. My prayer doesn't look the same. It doesn't look the same. My life doesn't look the same because, like I said, there's no situation where I can be further away from God if I want him. Like if ever I say, Lord, I need you, like I need you to see me holding this screaming little infant and I'm just like can't calm her down, like I need you to see me, he does come. And if all I can do is like have 5 minutes of silence where I'm just sitting and I'm just saying, Lord, have mercy and come to me a day, that is a great response. Like that can be my bread and butter, and that's okay, because I'm being faithful to him. The scripture I think that's been in my mind and I've been reflecting on is the one where the Lord he's preparing his disciples before he is ascending into heaven, and before Pentecost he's saying the advocate will come and all that stuff. And he says, I cannot tell you. I have many things to tell you. Sorry, it's right here. I have many more things to tell you, but they would be too much for you right now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you all to truth. I have many things to tell you, but they would be too much for you right now. And I've just been like holding on to that tightly. It's like, there's a lot hidden from me in this time, and that's good. That's for my good. The Lord is doing that for our good. And so I think that's kind of how I'm trying to respond as a missionary, but mostly just as somebody who loves Jesus, as somebody who wants Jesus.
That's a lovely quote. I really, you've maybe look at that in a different light, that quote there about, just it's a sense, in a way, to me, it's like letting go. It's like realizing that our whole life and our whole destiny, this whole situation with this pandemic is not really in our control. And we are almost indebted to those who are trying to find solutions to it, or trying to find, there's no solution to it at the minute. There's no cure for this at the minute. There's no vaccine for this at the minute. So we're almost abandoning ourselves to God's providence. That's really what that quote kind of spoke to me there about that.
And also it's like, it's not just that we had control and we don't have control now. It's not like there was some transition where it's like we used to have control of our lives and now we don't. Actually, no, we've never had control of our lives. We're just more aware of it now. We're just more aware that God is God and we are not. It's just, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to be aware of our humanity. And I think the world is experiencing that on a global level right now.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, there's different phases of it. America is moving kind of more towards more public worship again. Churches are opening up in different states. How the conversation shifted now to how the church is reacting to how the church will look after this pandemic. What do you think? Are you hopeful, or are you not so hopeful that the church will be in a better position after this?
Oh, I always put my hope in the church. Even in her most like difficult times, Christ is the one in charge. So I always put my money on the church being able to lead us. And I think there'll be a revival in our clergy. I think that my dad has been studying to be a deacon over the last number of years, and his ordination got pushed back, and it was quite disappointing for all of us, because it was a date we were really looking forward to. And two of my niece and my nephew were going to get their first communion. My other niece was going to be baptized. It was all going to happen on one day, and it was going to be this amazing celebration. And then it just didn't happen. And I sat there in that disappointment. But actually, I have more excitement than I did before. And my dad was saying to me, like, God has been ordaining me in my heart for the last, X number of years, and that day will come. And the thing is, like, regardless of my ordination, I'm doing this because I'm responding to God's ask, and he's the one in charge. And so, like, I have so much hope that there's going to be a revival, and that my dad's ordination is going to be even more we're going to be even more aware of the joy that brings, and his ability to serve the church right now.
But absolutely. One of the things, this revival you speak of, I do sense there is going to be a revival in the church amongst the faithful, and maybe amongst those who haven't practiced for years. One of the phrases I always think of, Mammy always said before, when I was wanting dinner, in fact, I'm waiting for dinner just now. She always says,
yeah, it's almost dinner time here. I forgot that.
She always said, hunger is the best sauce. And, it's true. And I think that applies to the sacraments as well. When your father's ordination as a deacon, your nieces and nephews in First Communion, I think, we will really be craving those sacraments. And when we do get them, the joy will be even more, because we're so hungry for them,
Yeah. And also, people desire to fight for something. People desire to lay down their lives. Like, we don't always connect to that, but we really desire to get into the battle and to live for something and to run after something. And this is a really tangible way that we can put our, like I said, put our faith in the Lord, put our hope in the Lord, put our money on Jesus, bet on Jesus, and, like, really go after that fight. And that's an exciting thing. Like, we are made to, like, fight for justice and for truth, because that's what the Lord does, and we're in his image and likeness. So it's natural that we would have this, like, rising up, like, in us of, like, this is not right, that I cannot receive the Eucharist right now, and it might not be anyone's fault, but I am going to, like, strive for that or hope in that.
Yeah, that's been wonderful. Listen, thank you for dropping by today to talk briefly. We absolutely hope and pray that the NET Ministries will return to Scotland and continue their great work and be part of this revival that we both sense is taking place. And certainly we will be delighted to have you back in Scotland. And I've really enjoyed chatting to you today. It's been very interesting, and that's just a small segment of the kind of things that you bring as a NET ministry, a wider NET ministry to young people in Scotland. So absolutely, if you don't have these guys in your schools, when the time comes, get them in your school, because we need these guys there, that American drive.
I love that. And
have a nice end of quarantine party or ordination or First Communion when that ever happens.
Thanks. Thank you so much, John, for having us. I'm grateful for your time.
God bless. Thank you.